Hi there, it's time to look at Bitcoin again through the Wyckoff lens. If you're new to my sessions, here are the three key items I'll cover during the session. So let's start with the weekly chart of Bitcoin. And for the very first time, we may have to get into the lower level charts in addition to the daily chart that we usually cover, because what I'm going to show you is potentially Bitcoin has entered an area that's going to be, I call it a boring zone, because we may be staying between these the key levels of 74k to 91k for a pretty long time. Of course, it's not always going to hit that 74k line. Most often, like last sign of weakness, it's going to hit the 81k more often than the one below, unless this is really the case where whales are offloading and they're not getting in yet. Alright, if they're getting in early and start accumulating along the white line, okay, this is the top edge of the long-term playground zone, alright, then it's a different story. But however, let's look at what's going on and why I say it has entered a boring zone. So basically, for the past 2 weeks, after the price dropped to the around 80k, I said it's going to bounce to 91k and then just play around within this area. And this week, we have just started a week and 17 hours. There's already like an almost 8% or more than 8% climb. So if you have been trading within this period, this is something you would probably expect. So this kind of 8 to 12, 15% range is still a good area to play with, right? Every single week, right? 10%. It's not too bad, really. And then, what about the zone? This area. Remember, when we zoom out and look at the big picture, we have gone through the buying climax, the upthrust. Alright, if we look at what happened back in 2021-22 cycle, after the upthrust, like where we are now, after the last point of supply, which we already have gone through during late October, it fell to the current point, the second, or the sign of weakness actually, not the LPSY yet. We're still going through that stage, but this sign of weakness, if we look at the one on the left hand side, from the first candle coming down from the LPSY to the last high of this or the next LPSY, okay, it lasted for 13 weeks, 91 days. So when we fast forward to where we are now, from the very first candle dropping from the LPSY, if it takes the same time, 91 days, it's going to get into late January. So we are technically still about 8 weeks away from that. Okay, so about 7 to 8 weeks, because we have entered the 6th week already. From now on, every single session, if it is going to repeat exactly the same, taking a long time before it actually drops. So I was talking about this for 13 weeks from this peak. Okay, let me use this. It will be clearer for you. 1 second. I noticed the screen is frozen. Let me double check. Okay, it seems to be working now. Let me try again. Okay, yeah. So if it was frozen, let me quickly go through again. So here, this was 2021-22. This was the upthrust back in November 2021. And we have gone through our upthrust September this year. After the first LPSY, it landed onto the sign of weakness. So let's try to count from the low point Okay, this from the sign of weakness to the point where it drops below the the bottom. That's the red key level of around 32K. That took 15 weeks. Okay, from the low point of SOW. Here, this is where we are now. Assuming, we haven't seen it yet, assuming what happened 2 weeks ago was the low point for sign of weakness. If it takes the same time, 15 weeks, it's gonna get into March next year before it finally comes down. Right? Whether it's below the 81K or the 74K, I'll pick the 74K. Alright? That's referencing the previous sign of weakness. This one, similar. Right? The first sign of weakness happened or found support around the red key level 32K back then. The second, when it fell through the 32K, that same support line, that's where it enters the accumulation cycle all the way to the selling climax and subsequent lower tests. This time we're still early at this stage. There's still time if it's going to take the same amount of time for around 3 to 4 months, till March. We're going to spend a lot of time in the coming 15, 16 sessions talking about this, and I'm going to tell you, yeah, we're still there, and you're going to ask, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Unfortunately, some of the times, when we're talking about the big picture, that's where it's going to stay. And that's why I said just now in the beginning, in addition to the usual daily chart we'll look at, we'll go into more frequent time frames as well. Alright, so here we go. Let's go to the daily. These percentages remain same, okay? I am not changing my view at the moment. This is potentially happening right now, but I'm keeping the 10% there anyway. So in the daily, Bitcoin is still within this downtrend. Okay, we all know this channel box. Looking at what happened over the past few days, these 4 days started from Thursday, and then into Saturday where we had our last session, and eventually, yesterday it has a pretty high volume. It fell and found support along the center line of the downward channel. However, this red volume bar at the bottom, even though it's high, it carries this bit of buying from the bottom. You see this wick from the bottom, right? Okay, so if this is the case, that I said this may be the selling climax for the daily time frame, and if that's the automatic rally, okay, let's remove the question mark for now. Assuming those are the case, they have set the horizontal trading range for the near term, meaning this yellow dashed line and the blue key level of around 91K. Yeah, there's one over here that I mentioned for a couple of sessions already. It's going to bounce around these two lines in addition to bounce within the box. There's still quite a couple of days before it reaches, almost 25 days before it reaches this corner, if it's really going to stay below the blue key level. Alright, so as of now, what we're expecting is more tests, like what I said last Saturday. The test is still continuing. Sorry, the top isn't this one, the horizontal trading range. It should be this purple line, 93K. Okay? Because that's where the automatic rally, the highest point, got rejected from there. Let's make it simple. We want it 93K. Okay, so that's where it's, technically speaking, going to bounce around until the point it's going to confirm a breakout, or is it going to come down to test this lower levels around the 74K key level. So why I said we have to go down to the lower level time frames, because when we look at this, the message seems to be mixed. Okay, for the initial start of this week, there was no direction, and there was quite a bit of selling from 93K, or just about above 91K. There was quite a bit of selling. Yesterday, it dropped to somewhere around 86, close around at around 86K, but dropped very low to around mid 83K. So there are people buying from that level, but then there are also the bears trying to push the price back below the blue line. And if we look at the lower level time frame, we see what's going on right now. These guys, the bulls, are trying to push the price even higher, re-challenging the purple line. You see that's where it stopped over there, and there was quite a bit of selling on November 28th. Currently, the volume is increasing for the buying, and it's pushing the price to a higher level. But don't forget what happened over here. These long red bars of selling happened just yesterday. Okay, so they're fighting very hard along these lines, trying to push the price back to this, or remaining at the stronger side of this downward channel. If the bulls are successful and they push the price to stay above the 91K key level, when we get closer to the 11th, so roughly 9 days from now, if it continues to trade at this narrow range, there's a chance that they may be successful in pushing the price to outside of this downward trend. But that doesn't mean it's the end of the story, because once it got outside, it can trade sideways and then come down again. So it's not like it's entirely bullish. Alright? So be careful about that. So if you ask, hey, even 3 hours is not frequent enough, let's look at what's happening when we go even deeper. Okay, for the past 2 hours or hour or so, this was roughly about the time yesterday the candlestick closed. Okay, there was quite a bit of selling near the end of the trading day, in addition to where it began. Today, however, it kind of changed. A lot of people bought in, but at certain point you notice that these red bars, there are people kept selling. Just that in the last hour or two, the buyers came in, pushing this up to, like I said, going to challenge the purple key level of 93K. The key is whether these volumes is going to continue and last till the end of the day. If they don't, like the second half or the remaining 5 hours, if they're going to push the price back down to below the blue key level, then we know what I said in the very beginning, that Bitcoin may be playing around this zone for a prolonged period of time. The realization of it is getting a higher chance. So unless a macro environment change comes in, or liquidity change comes in, and people have to find different buckets to put in their cash, otherwise this, like I said, is going to struggle for a couple of months before the condition changes. So for the next couple of sessions, we'll still keep an eye on this, in addition to the daily, while everything is still within the downtrend. When it continues, if it doesn't go above the 91K level, when we get closer to Christmas, there's a point the trend change confirmation will come. Okay, by then it will confirm whether it's going to go sideways above the 81K, or is it going to come down to challenge the 74-75K range. That's from now to Christmas time, right? If it breaks out sooner, by next week, that means something, but still, it's not going to be celebration time yet. Okay, it's too early to say that. And remember, the use of these air hockey tables is to measure where the potential rebound may be, or rejection may be. Even if it stays above the this blue key level of 91k, and when it challenges the 93k, the purple dashed line, it may do this kind of narrow range trading, just like what happened in the past couple of days, and then get rejection from this point. If the breakout wasn't successful, right? Then it continued to bounce either to the center line or all the way to near the bottom, and that's where the two other support lines are. And at that point, Bitcoin may find stronger support. All right, because 74k is not only from a technical perspective, there are dual support, but also it's some, let's say, baseline price or average cost as reported, which some prominent Bitcoin holding entity is their buying price is at. Okay, so let's see when that happens, whether the Bitcoin will hold over there. Because if that's the baseline price, baseline purchasing price that those prominent entity is having Bitcoin at, when the price gets to that point, they should be going in as much as they can. Or if they are also thinking Bitcoin could get lower, what would they do is that they probably would hedge. And then from that hedging, they get a bunch of cash. And when Bitcoin dropped to a lower point, they have the cash to buy Bitcoin cheaper, pushing or pressing their average purchase price lower. There are a lot of stories or games at play as of this moment, whether what kind of conspiracy is being spread around, or are somebody going to destroy some pro-crypto I don't know, politician or businesses, or is it because of the Bitcoin debate, what Bitcoin should be? Is it all these added up together, bringing Bitcoin price to the next low? All right, would that happen? Or when those are cleared, would that actually pushes Bitcoin price back to an upthrust of the distribution? Okay, it all depends on how those news are settled and how they are being sold. Are they going to be sold as bad news, or are they going to be sold as good news?